Hey, what's up guys? My name is Gareth from Simple Studios, the only game studio dedicated to your success, and in this episode, we're talking a little bit more about the Cursed Kingdom, specifically how to beat them early, middle, and late game. Let's dive into it. Alrighty, and so as we discussed before in last episode, which if you haven't seen, go check it out, we were talking about the Cursed Kingdom and giving you a rundown on what the Cursed Kingdom is known and feared for. And as I said a whole bunch in that video, the early game is the hardest point for the Cursed Kingdom because they don't have any answers for basically anything. And even a super duper weak card like the Wojak NPC is honestly very threatening to a Cursed Kingdom player, and that is because, again, they have no answers for basically anything. They do have a few cheap units of their own that are strong in their own right, but because they have 0 health, they can't be played without another card being on the field, or without an expensive spell. So, literally anything could beat them at this point in the game, and during this time you should try to end the game as fast as possible, cut down the opponent's health as much as possible so that you can control the board later on in the match. And now turning it over to the mid-game. At this point the Cursed Kingdom is still nowhere near its maximum strength, but that doesn't mean that you should underestimate them. You should absolutely end the game as fast as possible, because as I said before, at this point the Cursed Kingdom is only going to get stronger and stronger as the game progresses, and you need to end early, otherwise they're going to have some really nasty units that can completely wipe your board. Though at this point, you do have to be wary for a few certain units that they do have, such as the Follower of Terror, a decently tanky mid-cost unit that has Equalize. He's very hard to take down in combat. Another big threat that you need to watch out for is Lord of Duality, especially if this player has a lot of spells in hand or a lot of cheap units. They could very easily stack up the Lord of Duality to the point where he is a 12/12 unit and is extremely hard to kill. Alongside this, Well of Tears is also basically synonymous with Lord of Duality, and if they have both Well of Tears, Lord of Duality, and a bunch of cheap units on their side of the field, you need to look at either killing the Lord of Duality, killing the Well of Tears, or just trying to nuke out these allies which have very low health. And now we're going to be turning our heads to the late game. At this point, the Cursed Kingdom is extremely strong and honestly extremely scary. If you haven't ended at this point, you might as well start counting your blessings or pull out whatever Hail Mary that you're planning, because the Cursed Kingdom is really not going to let up, and honestly, there's not a whole lot of answers in the game for a lot of the combinations that the Cursed Kingdom can set up. One of the biggest names that strike fear into the hearts of many is the Duke of Terror. He is very hard to kill, he is extremely utility focused, and by him just existing on the field, his allies are also extremely hard to kill. So if you don't really have an answer for killing the Duke of Terror or his allies, well, I mean, it's just over. Another really solid option that the Cursed Kingdom has is the Golem of Bodies. Whenever a 2-cost unit dies, the Golem of Bodies gets stronger, and at this point, because you've been harassing the Cursed Kingdom for basically the entire game, there's no doubt in my mind that there have been probably 30 plus kills of 2 or less cost units that you have killed, meaning that the Golem of Bodies is going to be extremely strong. It's not something you want to mess around with, and it already has Demon Strike and Piercing built in, so much like what Phil Swift would say, that's a lot of damage. And another great answer for early game aggression and mid-game snowballing that the Cursed Kingdom has is the Feaster of Hope. This thing is monstrously powerful. It deals damage to everything aside from itself, dealing 1 damage. And this is effect damage, not spell damage, not an attack, effect damage. And this is extremely hard to block and deal with. Any creature that falls to the hands of Feaster of Hope will give him bonus stats. And this includes all of these 0 health cost allies that the Cursed Kingdom is known for. This essentially guarantees that the Feaster of Hope can stack quite fast, quite frequently, and basically gets stronger every turn, and if you don't shut him down the second he's summoned, you're gonna have a really hard time. And now we're going to be changing it up a little bit, and we're going to be talking about how to play as the Cursed Kingdom. So in the early game, you don't really have a lot. There is Death Pact, but that's basically your bread and butter. If the enemy has any kind of aggression at all, be it a Wojak NPC, an Andrew Toke, or a Red Pillar, you need to deal with it immediately, because you only have 20 health, and Cursed Kingdom is one of the few archetypes in the game that doesn't have a way to restore health or augment its health in any way. So think of any damage you take during the early, mid, and late game as permanent damage. There is no way you're going to be able to recover from this, and that's that. Every single mistake is a permanent injury in this game, and you need to make sure that you don't take too much damage. Some saving graces that you have are the Zombie Sage, but even then, the opponent can still very easily deal with that because it has Curse where it deals 1 damage to itself. Despite it having a lot of health for a 1-cost unit, it's not that tanky. And the biggest thing that the Cursed Kingdom has to watch out for is piercing. This is literally the kryptonite for the Cursed Kingdom, because piercing, as we've discussed in past videos, will deal any remaining damage over to the opponent's health. And with a lot of the early game and even some mid-game units, and honestly, a few late-game units for the Cursed Kingdom, they have 0 health, meaning that every single attack with piercing is going to be dealing full damage to you, because they don't have any health, which means it cannot offset the effect of piercing. So if you are playing the Cursed Kingdom, be extremely careful of that, be aggressive with your Crypt Munchers and Death Pact, and try to make it to late game so you can get Duke of Terror on the field. Alrighty, and wrapping up this video, that's unfortunately all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed this little analysis video, because it is a little bit different from the past things that we have been doing on the channel. And if you do like it, let me know in the comments, leave a thumbs up, and yeah, I hope to see you in tomorrow's episode where we cover a new archetype. I'm not sure what yet, maybe it's more Cursed Kingdom stuff, maybe it's something else, I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow.